So, you're invited to this banquet, and it's amazing. The food is amazing. The space is amazing. You're surrounded by amazing people, and from the bits of conversation you can overhear, this one's a scientist, this one's a doctor, this one's a poet, this one's a philosopher, this one's, a famous performer, this one's a ballerina. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable the situation that you found yourself in, and you're so grateful to be surrounded by wonderful people in a beautiful space eating this amazing food. And everyone's having a wonderful time, and at the height of joy in the space, this lunatic comes rushing into the room, and wild-eyed and ripping hair and angry and teeth gnashing, and says, "How could you eat that? How could you eat it?" And of course, everyone just thinks this is a lunatic, and the person is escorted out of the room, and everyone goes about their business. And you're thinking to yourself, well, that was weird, but you're still enjoying yourself, but something in your curiosity is getting the best of you, and you're not enjoying the food as much as you had been enjoying it before this, person came and kind of ruined the whole thing. And so, your curiosity getting the best of you, you decide to take a visit to the kitchen. And when you peek in, you see that everything just looks normal. There are people, preparing food and steaming pots, and people chopping things and putting them into the pots, and the aroma in the kitchen is amazing, which is what you expected because the food is just so good. And so you pull someone aside and say, "Hey, can you tell me a little bit about where the food comes from?" And the person just points to a door. And you walk through the door, and what you see stops you in your tracks. You see that there are children in cages, crying, huddled, some of them bruised, some of them sick, and you don't want to jump to conclusions and assume that what you're seeing means what you think it means, until suddenly another door opens and a group of adults wearing, coveralls that are quite bloody come in, and they open one of the cages, and they grab a couple of the children who are screaming and trying not to be dragged out of the cage, and they drag them into a room where the screaming continues for a while until it stops. And of course, you have a strong sense of what that means, but your curiosity gets the best of you, and you go to the second door where the children have been dragged out, and when you open it, you see that your worst suspicions are indeed true. So at that point, you have a choice. You can go and you can warn everyone else, but you've seen what happens when that's tried. Or you can find another way out and just leave and never think about that place again. But who knows what that means? Maybe once they found out that you're onto the secret and that you don't approve, who knows what will happen. And so you go back into the banquet room, and you sit staring at your plate, afraid to eat anything. There are some, maybe they call themselves vegans, maybe ethical vegans, and maybe they don't label themselves at all, but there are some for whom animals are sentient beings with a desire to live, and that those sentient beings, as part of our moral community, deserve to be treated with respect. And certainly not to be treated as property, and most definitely not to be killed and turned into food. And I don't share that with the expectation that you'll stop eating meat, but that you'll perhaps understand a little of what it's like to be someone who has discovered a profound respect for life. And when they see life being sacrificed quite unnecessarily, they might experience a type of horror that makes them want to tear their hair and go screaming through the room, "How could you eat that?" But surprisingly, most don't.